Be Still, 2004, my last night at 944 Bills. It was the last night in a home that I tried to make my own. From the furniture placement to the art on the walls to keeping every room neat, dusted, and vacuumed. It was a home that I would miss. I would miss the space. I would miss choosing the dining room table and chairs and the bedroom furniture, frames and placements of things. I would miss the playpen and high chairs set up in the living room. I would miss making Simone breakfast, lunch, and dinner and sitting at our dining room table, or her sitting at the kitchen table. I would miss the expectation that kids could always spend the night, being trusted with all the kids under my roof. I would miss birthday and slumber parties. I would miss it all. I would miss having a first floor laundry room, large closets to neatly put everything away. I would miss having my own space. I would miss having a guest bedroom. If family came out from out of town, we would properly host them with plenty of space for privacy. I would miss having a space where people felt at home when they did visit. I would miss cooking and cleaning up my own kitchen. I would miss my bathroom. I would miss it all terribly, but nothing about it was permanent or certain. It was all temporary. That was understood by a notice to vacate the premises in 72 hours one day when I came home from getting my hair done. In the next 3 days, it was a full court press of asking people to hold and or keep furniture that I could not take to my mother's home, getting people to move me and my 3 kids out of that place and into a second and third story two-family. Those 3 days were not quite a tornado, but it was a whirlwind. Somehow it all got done. I may have even laughed a few times in the process. Once the moving and shuffling and giving away was complete, I prepared to spend my last night at that address alone. My mother kept the kids. I made a pallet on the living room floor in a lake of navy blue carpet. I paced around, but not too much, because I was afraid. I was afraid that I would start crying, which I did anyway. Afraid that someone knew I would be there alone and would stop by. But I followed a nudge. I didn't call anyone. I didn't punk out and leave. I was obedient within that fear. I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling. I thought about what stuff I valued in that house that was all gone, 90% of which I would never see again. I started thinking about how unfair this move was, not just for me, but Simone. She loved that house. I started beating myself up about how I already knew that I didn't know anything for certain in my relationship. I started thinking men have no idea the real weight of what is left behind. In those thoughts, I felt heavy, unable to move, stuck, and a little hopeless. I started sinking, like I was making a dent in the floor. Sadness is heavy, and it was on me and starting to take over. It got darker and darker. There wasn't even noise from outside. It was eerily quiet. But suddenly, I started feeling a little lighter. It was like my mind. In that moment, God said, "Enough is enough." Maybe a slight ringing in my ears to drown out the sound of my negative thoughts. It was like all the things had to be taken away and I had to be reduced to empty silence for me to know Psalm 46:10. My mind changed to thinking about the things I was able to take. What God allowed me to keep were the things that I valued the most. The art on the walls, my dining room table, and the pictures, all the pictures. God spoke to me when I was alone and still. That was the first time I could hear him clearly. This was no audible Olivia Spencer, James Earl Jones, or Morgan Freeman voice. It was smooth, low, and calm. The message: I cannot deal with you in this house. You are ignoring me while you are here. Even though you are going to church, you cannot hear me in this house. You don't know me or how I solve problems that people create. You cannot fix this situation. Only I. Rest here tonight. I got the rest. I had to let go, and because I was not capable of letting go, I had to get put out. It was that simple. I wasn't in control. It was so clear how little I was in control of at that moment. If left up to me, I would have tried to hold on to that place. and I didn't belong there, not anymore. It had served a purpose, and it was over. I only had one place to go, back home to my mother. I was so embarrassed, but my mother welcomed me back with open arms. There will always be some underlying "I told you so." Even if she didn't say it, I felt it. I felt so bad about what confusion and chaos I voluntarily signed up for in my life. I was always thinking that everyone else was thinking. I know she saw this coming. My brother said I was Keisha on Belly. He said, "You wish that was nice," but he isn't. He thought it was funny, but deep down, he was also relieved that I was going back home. My mother was happy to have us all. I left as 2 and came back as 4. Simone, Nadia, Lemuel, and I. Things were about to change. I used to oversee my household. I used to know exactly what was in the refrigerator and fridge and every drawer. I also used to oversee who came into my house. It was somewhere you could come, but not unannounced. This going back home was going to be the opposite of the lifestyle I once had. At home with an always open sign for anyone who needs a place. That would be me. Anyone who needs a meal. That was me and my kids. Anyone who needs to come just sit down and talk. And that was everyone. My mom is a provider of peaceful, loving experiences with none of the neatness that I used to covet. I had to let that go also. I was back, fully immersed in what mattered. God, work ethics, family, and giving to the community. That night until the next morning seemed so long. The morning was good. I got up, did a lap around the house, folded up my blankets, and went home. Having to sit still was a good thing. I raised all my kids where I was raised, and we're all better for it. Blessed by that humbling experience. God has always been in control. I couldn't have chosen that on my own. God had to do it for me. I'm so grateful that he saw fit to pluck me out of that circumstance. I realize how fortunate I am to have had the option to go back home. My name is Pierrette C. Wallace. I am from here, Cincinnati. Yes, I am a mom and a grandma. I have 3 kids and 2 grandbabies. My career is in construction. I've been in that field for 20 plus years in the dirt like construction, and now I'm on the management side, and I'm really liking that. I am 46 years old. Became a mom semi-young and a grandma semi-young also, but I love it all. What do you want to know about me? I love to support living artists like yourself and Nina. It's one of my favorite things I get to do as a mature adult. I understand the value in supporting people who are active in the arts. It's something I really enjoy. I went away to school to Tennessee State University in Nashville. I came back home when I was pregnant with Simone, and not too long after I had Simone, I was in Atlanta for a little while and came home again, and then moved to St. Louis for a little while, and I've been back here in Cincinnati probably since Simone was like 2, I think. Yeah, maybe 1.5, 2 years old, and Simone is 26 now, so I've been back here for that long at least. I like the South. I love to visit there. And if I had an opportunity to leave here, it would be somewhere south, hot. But I like Cincinnati too. I think it's been a great place to raise my kids and be around family. I am a little sister also. I need to make that point because I have a lot of value due to my big brother. So I like to say that about myself. I'm a little sister. I'm a little sister to Simon. For me, taking care of my mental and emotional health looks like cleaning up my diet and starting to exercise. So between 36 and 46, even though my diet is really good, something I'm proud of, in the last 7 years, I wasn't exercising, I wasn't moving around too much, and I was in a down state. And I really just snapped out of it like around my birthday last year. And I had to incorporate moving, exercise, not just going to work and focusing on everybody else. I started focusing a little bit more just on myself, kind of being selfish, to be honest with you. But it was to the tune of doing something outside, like in some fresh air, and just starting to move. And I felt better. So that's something that I incorporated into my day to day in the last 6 months that's been really beneficial to my mental health, for sure. I mean, I go to church. I have since I've had kids, it's been something that I do. I used to go to Bible study at Bethlehem Temple by way of Gwenny J, and she passed away, and I kept going. And when COVID came, I got out of the habit. They kind of shut it down, and they were doing it virtually. But that gave me the opportunity from that study, from that style of Bible study. It made me read more. One, I was embarrassed in church that I didn't know where nothing was in the book. And at Bethlehem Temple was like, go to John 3:6. And I'm like, where is that in the beginning? Is it in the back? I didn't know where it was. So I took the time. I tabbed my Bible, you know what I mean? I did stuff to be more intentional about just going to church. I was tired of that also, just going. But, I was incorporating the reading and studying. And to be honest with you, not just listening to Crossroads, but I listened to a lot of sermons from different denominations also. And that's been very helpful because it's a lot of instruction in that book that we can't just talk about, we got to be about. And once I start reading it for myself, not just getting talked at, it's a responsibility, after that to incorporate it. If I could share some wisdom with someone going through their own be still moment, 2 things I can think of immediately. Best thing I ever heard in church is that the word don't need a defense, it need a witness. So you have to seek people who are walking their talk. Like, is this person about how they're living? You know what I mean? Are they just talking one way and living another? And I've been guilty of very much the opposite, talking one way and doing some other behind closed doors that I wasn't necessarily proud of. So seeking out people and really asking for whatever you believe in a higher power for some level of discernment. We need some discernment out here because there's too much stuff coming at us all the time that we need to be able to parse through so we can eliminate problems from solutions, And the other thing is you and your problems got one thing in common, you. So if you keep them all to yourself, you're not getting to no solution fast. You have to be strong enough and have enough courage to seek out, to tell somebody something you're going through. And I don't mean tell 20 people. Everybody needs somebody, and that person needs somebody too. Somebody is waiting for you to ask them for some help, And I just encourage that. And that being like super private, being super private is just being closeted about my problems or stuff that I was wrestling with, when I could have asked this person, like, you know what, this is pissing me off. I don't know how to get out of it. Or like, I messed up and this is like, I don't even know how to fix it. Like, it's somebody that's got a solution for you, and probably somebody who loves you regardless of whatever you think is unforgivable or you shamed of. It's you got somebody. Sometimes it's a family, sometimes there's no family at all. Sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's a coworker, but you do yourself a disservice keeping all your problems to yourself. You got to ask somebody for some help. And that's been my biggest flaw, not asking, or asking when I didn't fell all the way down. Like, I could have said something before I tripped, and I waited till I was on the ground before I said something, And I mean, and the help was there. That was like, that's the humbling part of it. Like, you should have been said something, And I could have got the help I needed, and a lot, not been somewhere suffering in silence or struggling in silence. And it also does a disservice to people who are influenced by you. You looking like you got together and you don't, or your kids think you're tough or strong when you really want to go scream. You know what I mean? And so for daughters in particular, or even sons seeing their mom be tough all the time, they assume every woman should be tough. Like there's not an opportunity to be soft or let somebody else handle something, or that you shouldn't be doing things, on your own all the time, So you do yourself a disservice by not speaking up when something is difficult or you're struggling with something. Don't keep it to yourself. You gotta say something. That's what I got.